Nintendo just got caught lying. It's not a joke. It's not an exaggeration. Nintendo admits that they lied during the Nintendo Direct about how Switch 2 games work. And this is scummy. And I want to just kind of explain the fact that the reason I'm so frustrated about the Nintendo Switch 2 is because the Nintendo Switch 1 was so great. The games were cheap. It had a great battery life. It's got a good screen. I mean, this thing was $300 when the Nintendo Switch originally came out. And now the Switch 2 is probably going to be almost double the price, maybe $550, $600. The games are now $80 a pop, and Nintendo just admitted that almost every Nintendo Switch 2 game is going to be a code in a box. There will not be used Nintendo Switch 2 games, including for some major stuff like Metroid Prime 4. This sucks, but let me explain the situation, and let's take a look at the official statement from Nintendo themselves. I hope you're having a great day, and if you could, please give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. I do want to quickly thank you guys. The channel has been exploding this week. Tons of new subscribers, everything like that. I just appreciate people sharing the news and stuff like that. It's always a good time, but the most frustrating part of the Nintendo Switch 2 for me has been, in my opinion, these pathetic upgrades. The fact that they're selling... This is a Nintendo Switch launch game. The Nintendo Switch came with 6 launch games. There was a very tiny launch lineup, but the thing that was supposed to be the big system seller is Breath of the Wild. Hey, we now have this big open world Zelda. You can go in any direction and do all sorts of craziness and make your own great tale in the world of Hyrule. Okay, that's great. But now they're selling it again almost 8 years later. Hey, congrats, it's now a full price game, but hey, it's getting an upgrade graphically. Well, kinda. We're going to take a look at the really pathetic side-by-side screenshots, but my issue has always been the price. This is a Nintendo Switch 1 game for $80. This is a Nintendo Switch 1 game for $80. For a literal upgrade patch that makes it play a little bit better, that makes it look a little bit better, you're paying $80. But the worst part is, Nintendo has now admitted it is literally a Nintendo Switch 1 game. According to Nintendo's own support, the Nintendo Switch 2 Enhanced Editions were false advertised during the Nintendo Direct. After trying to nail them down for an answer, they confirmed to one of our followers it's a Switch 1 game cart with a code inside for the upgrade. The box is useless. It is literally going to be a Nintendo Switch 2 case with the Nintendo Switch 1 game inside, which means that even if you do buy this, even if you love that game, even if you love it, you can never lend it to anybody. You can never let your friends try it. It is legitimately hard stuck to your system forever, because any other thing, even if you get Metroid Prime 4, the case will have an original copy of Metroid Prime 4 on Nintendo Switch. Putting it into a Switch 2 does not make it a Switch 2 game. It is a Switch 1 game until you type that code in. Everybody is instantly like, bro, this is ridiculous. According to Nintendo UK support rep, Switch 2 editions of physical games like Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, Kirby and the Forgotten Land, Metroid Prime 4 only have a download code. I am frustrated because more and more of these Nintendo Switch games are literally a code in the box. This is ridiculous. How is this a 3DS game that was $40 12 years ago being sold today for $40 still, and you can't even play it and lend it to a friend? It is legitimately just a code in the box. Now, some people will say, oh, well, some of these, they still work. You know, sometimes it has to install some stuff, or hey, it'll work, but the other person has to continually keep that. It's a digital DRM download key. This stuff, to me, it sucks. This sounds like the Xbox Smart Delivery discs, where you're basically buying a disc, but when you put it in there, it actually installs the game. The disc is nothing except for a registration key that allows it to download it digitally. The disc is literally nothing. It's pretty much blank. This is the lowest common denominator, in this instance, Switch 1 version, on physical media. The Switch 2 upgrade download is just a patch. Now, I will admit that my frustration with this is that it truly feels like, in every possible way, Nintendo is trying to be as cheap as possible with the Nintendo Switch 2. The specifications aren't that great. The battery life isn't that great. The cost is ridiculously high. Every part of it. I haven't had a chance to talk about this, but one of the great new features, the big new thing about the Nintendo Switch 2 is that it's going to have a button right here, the C button. When you press it, it opens up a special Nintendo chat where you can play games with people and communicate and even turn on your little webcam and stuff like that. That costs money. There is going to be a physical button on your controller that doesn't work unless you pay a monthly fee. Who in the history of video games has ever made a button on the controller you have to pay to press? This sucks. But even if you want to say, well, I'm glad to buy the Nintendo Switch 2. The Breath of the Wild is one of my favorite games of all time. I'm happy to see it upgraded. My issue is that even if you want to be on that camp, this to me, these are barely an upgrade. The Nintendo Switch 2 version versus the Nintendo Switch 1, can you really legitimately look at these screenshots and say, wow, what a great upgrade? Yeah, okay, it's got better frame rate. Okay, that's fine. Apparently it's got slightly better resolution, but this 1% clear shield, a little bit clearer dirt, is this really worth buying an $80 game? Or is it worth paying for a $20 patch on the original game you have from years ago? This to me, I feel like I'm getting increasingly frustrated about the fact that the Nintendo Switch 2 feels like so overpriced. And honestly, one of the things Nintendo has done much better than the competition is a lot of times Nintendo did seem to care about the gamers, about putting stuff out quick, about making stuff cool and fun, about making stuff feel flashy and retro, back when games purely were just about great world building. At this point, yeah, it's great that there's, 5-second better load times. Is that actually worth it? Everybody's basically been talking about, from the GameCube filters to every part of this, the Switch 2 feels lazy. The Switch 2 feels like, honestly, Nintendo is trying to do the absolute bare minimum. What's the highest cost for the lowest effort? What is the least we can pay to make these games and the highest we can possibly sell them for? If you buy an $80 copy of a game that is a code in the box, that's not a physical game. This is literally Nintendo trying to push things forcefully to all digital. And it sucks because, to me, Nintendo was the last bastion of physical collectors. Of, hey, here are actual games on carts. Hey, here is a physical way to have Final Fantasy X in its entirety and play the hell of it. Oh, sorry, guess that's now inert. Nintendo, please let this just be a giant misunderstanding. But if you're actually selling Nintendo Switch 1 games inside of Nintendo Switch 2 cases, to me, that's stupid. And honestly, it does feel deeply, deeply misleading. These are just some off-the-cuff thoughts. How do you feel about Nintendo Switch 2? Huzzah! I've gotten some tweets from people and some comments saying, oh, I'll pay for it no matter what. Oh, I'm so happy I only play Nintendo games. I'm happy to see some Nintendo Switch upgrades. I'm not here to raid on your parade. I'm kind of just explaining why my train of thought is that the more we learn about the Nintendo Switch 2, the more I think this thing is legitimately going to face plant. I think this is going to be the lowest opening sales of any Nintendo thing pretty much ever. Well, I guess they did do the Virtual Boy, which sold like 1,000, and they did flop with the Wii U. The lowest we've seen of them in the last 20 years. But tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. If you could, please give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And please keep dreaming. What a absolute dumpster fire. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.